Thank you to our channel sponsors, Jet.Build. If you're looking for ways to better manage your real estate development and construction projects, look no further. Jet is the command center software for end-to-end real estate development and construction management. That's www.jet.build. Shiloh, welcome to the show, man.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much, Adam. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. Excited to hear and share your story. Where are you calling in from? Where's home base for you?
Calling in from Austin, Texas, just a little bit south of Fort Hood. I joined and spent most of my time at Fort Hood. So when I got out of the service, I came about 30, 45 minutes south and stayed right here. Been here for about 35 years. Met a little Texas girl, married her, and decided, you know what, I'll call this home. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Love to hear it. So let's kick off with our first two questions, starting with if your son and or grandchildren approach you to tell you they want to join the military service, what do you do? How do you react?
Good question on that one. So that actually kind of happened with my son. He was going into his 10th grade year of high school. He was getting flustered with some of the classes and things that he was doing, and he came home and we're at the house. My brother-in-law was over. We're gonna have a little cookout, and my son came in and announced to us that he has decided that he was just going to join the military, and that he wasn't going to take these classes and advanced classes, and didn't want to go to college and didn't want to do this kind of stuff. And I was like, "What do you mean, just?" And he's like, "Well, I don't have to have all this education if I'm going to join the army." And I was like, "Oh, really?" So I called my brother-in-law and I said, "Hey, he thinks that he doesn't need to be educated to join the military and do anything." And my brother-in-law looked down and goes, "You think we're idiots? You think we're dumb? You think you have to understand command and troops and movement and doing things, and that you can just be stupid?" And he's like, "Well, you don't have to learn all this." And he goes, "You do have to learn all this, and I'll sit down and show it to you." And we literally pulled out maps and learned how to take azimuths and reading and go through and how to justify things, call coordinates, looking in. And he was like, "Oh." I said, "Look, if you're really strong, if you want to see about joining the military," I said, "I'll back you 100%. I said, "But you're going to finish school. You're going to take all the courses and you're going to enroll in college." I said, "And when you're done and you've got your degree," I said, "if you still want to join the military," I said, "then you're going to go for it." I said, "But you're not going to take this attitude that it's for dummies, or you don't have to get an education to be in the military, because you do. If you don't want to do anything more than push a broom, you don't have to join the military to do that. They'll let you do it. They'll let you sweep a motor pool all day long. And if that's where you're going to be at, you're not going to be real happy with things." And so he kind of changed his attitude about things and started looking into it, and started taking some drafting, started doing some electrical work. Just so happened that he fell in love with doing electrical work through the courses he was taking through school, and decided, "Dad, I think I actually want to become an electrician." And I'm like, "All right." I said, "Well, your military's still there. You can be an electrician in the military." I think I'll start with this first. He's over 30 years old now, and he has two kids of his own, and he's working for an electrical company here in town. So he's done really good for himself. But I would have supported him in going into the military, but he was going to do it the smart way and not try to use it as a cop out, as a fallback last resort. And so once he realized that that's what we're going to do, or what I say he was going to do, he changed his tone to things and picked up on his education to get a little further in life, and it served him really well.
Yeah, that's a great story.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah, that's a great story. I love how you approached it. Set things straight in terms of standards that exist and or mentality that one should have when joining service. I totally agree. That's really cool. And being an electrician is awesome. It's super needed. So glad to hear that's where he ended up. Moving onwards. So of course, when veterans or service members join the civilian sector and join civilian life and profession, there's a cultural gap that exists between veterans and civilians, and obviously vice versa. How do you see us better closing that gap, bridging that gap moving forward?
I take a look at it. Look at it from the start point. In your life, you weren't born into the military, right? So you, at some point in your life, you decided to join the military. And one of the biggest shocks that we see is when we go through boot camp, right? When you're leaving the civilian life behind and they break you down to the bare minimum so they can build you up their way. You go through boot camp, right? And for some, it's a very traumatic experience going through all that. Some of us are conditioned to it more and are ready for it, but it's still that's your your learning phase that you go into it. So you're literally transitioning from civilian into the military. You spend your career or the time frame that you're in, and if you get out because you're injured or whatnot, and you're going to roll straight back into the civilian world. Well, there's not a boot camp to get you back into civilian life. There's not an untraining or a retraining for civilian life. They don't break you back down again for civilian life. You know, when you were born, a newborn coming in, things were tough for you then. You're learning things out, and then you join the military, you break you back down, and so, but we don't have that learning process going from the military back into the civilian world and how you do things. And so I really think that we have to look at it from that point of view of, hey, are we training our individuals just like you train them to come in? You got to train them to come into something else that's different. You got to train them how to do things, how to expect things, what to expect. Uh, when you get someone that's first out, the most common complaint, and I've worked with a lot of people coming in new hires that are straight from the military and literally, hey, I just got out of service, 30 days ago. I took 30 days leave. I kind of relaxed and got this and planned. And now I'm coming in. I want to start into the workforce. What do we do? Hands down, the number one complaint I've heard from veterans coming into the workforce is like, why isn't anybody else on time? Where's everybody at? They said that we are here at 8 o'clock. I was here at 7:45. I'm 15 minutes early. Where's everybody? What do you mean my leader's not here? And that's the biggest thing that I see in the beginning, that the
Hmm.
shell shock that they're like, they said to be here at 8. I'm here 15 minutes early. That's on time. Where's everybody else? And come 8 o'clock,
Yep.
you're ready to start, or whatever the time frame would be. And then
Hmm.
other people are just showing up and just getting out of their vehicle, and a guy that gets there at 8 goes, hey, I gotta go get something to eat first, or I gotta do this, and it drives them nuts. It
Yeah.
drove me nuts. I
Yeah.
was just like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? When I left the military, I ended up getting a job working for AMD, Advanced Micro Devices, in South Austin. And I got hired and was told your new hire is starting at 7 o'clock in the morning on this day. That night, an ice storm came in. It shut down the interstate. Everything is done. I didn't get a call. I didn't get an email from anybody saying that it wasn't on. So what do? I get up at 4 a.m. in the morning to give myself time, and I slow roll it, you know, from Port Hood area all the way down to Austin. And there's nobody on the interstates. Trucks are pulled off the road. Things are closed. And I get there 6:45. I'm standing outside, and security guard goes, "What are you here for?" I'm like, "New hire," and they're like, "That's probably not going to happen." I'm like, "What do you mean probably? It's my first day. I'm not going to be late. I'm not going to be the one not showing up." And the guy's like, "Well, you can feel free to sit in here in the guard shack with me, but there's nobody at the plant." They're sitting around saying, and finally somebody from HR called and said, "Hey, just in case anybody shows up, we're closed today." And I'm like, so
Little late.
those little things. That was my first day back in
Yeah.
civilian life, right? Literally first day that I'm like, all right, got hired. I'm gonna come down here, and like, you don't bother to call nobody. You didn't check into the chain of command. There's nobody we can. They're like, well, no, we just figured you would know if it was, if it was iced over. I'm like, never stopped us in the past.
Right.
Raining, if it ain't raining, we ain't training. If it's
Hmm.
that was the way it was, and so that's kind of the way you kind of expected it to be. And then you're like, all right, do I show up
Hmm.
tomorrow, or and they're like, just wait and see if you can come in. I'm like, what does if mean?
Right.
So
It's a great answer, and it's touches on like the little nuances of life that are actually. Yeah, I mean, it's funny thinking in hindsight, but in those moments, it's actually really hard to recognize and understand. Like, oh no, that's military life versus what is now civilian life. And exactly to your point, there's no reintegration, full training. I mean, I know that programs have started to exist. Regardless, it's not the same kind of level of rigor that happens when you're and integrated into military service. So it's a good answer, and it's great to talk about those things more, be aware of them more. So it's easier to catch for our service members and veterans, generally speaking. Awesome answer. Love that story. That's a great way to start your new civilian life.
I'm here. Where's everybody else? Like I
That's
said,
crazy.
and you guys will show up to job sites, in construction, and you're trained your whole career. If you're not 15 minutes early, you're late.
Mm-hmm.
If you're on time, you're late. And so you have to
Totally.
be there early to be there on time. So guys are pulling up to that, and then they're legitimately upset when not quite
Yep.
going that way. You have to go,
Mm-hmm.
well, not everybody operates like that. And you're like, what do you mean you don't operate like that? Um,
Yep. Totally get you. Yep. It's a great point. Great story. So we're going to do a life story, and everyone starts off with a formal introduction. So I'm going to kick off with yours. Shiloh Rowe served 6.5 years in the U.S. Army as a communications specialist and combat radio operator with 13 COSCOM 180th. Shiloh deployed to Desert Shield and Desert Storm, spent 2.5 years with NATO forces in Turkey, and was later medically retired as a corporal due to injuries and chemical exposure when deployed to Saudi Arabia. After the military, Shiloh began working in semiconductor manufacturing, where he first transitioned into the safety department. That move sparked a career shift from general industry safety to construction safety, where he's made his mark ever since. Today, Shiloh serves as the safety director for AGC's Austin, Texas chapter. He also helped start the CVRS program as part of the National AGC Mental Health and Suicide Prevention Task Force, advancing critical conversations around veteran well-being. All right, Shiloh, we're going to start off with childhood, where you grew up and what childhood was like for you.
I grew up in Hampton, Virginia, so East Coast guy, and my parents were of the hippie variety of the 60s, born in the 50s and 60s. A story I like to tell that they absolutely hate me telling is they were on their way to what was supposed to be the second Woodstock, and their vehicle broke down on the side of the road. They never made it to the concert, and it was a VW Bug, not the wagon, but the Bug, and they broke down. And 9 months later, here I am. Shiloh, by the way, happens to be an old Neil Diamond song, and that was very popular. And it also means peace, and so that's how I got. I guess I could have been, Moon Unit Zappa, like Frank Zappa's son and daughter, and so But I got named Shiloh, and that was at one point tough growing up with as a child, but kind of stands out. You don't meet too many guys named Shiloh out there, so I've learned to own it and make it my own. So I like it. I wouldn't think I could. I don't think I could go by, Dan or Pete or Mike or something anymore. No, I'm good. I am who I am.
Yeah, it's a cool name. Totally. So in childhood, what did you like to do, and kind of what led you to military service?
A lot of outdoor playing around and running around, camping, playing war with sticks and pine cones with buddies and friends. What kind of got me into the military, or what ended up getting me into safety. Um, I guess I'll start with the safety portion first. So I got into that based off of I grew up on the East Coast, sand, beach, pools, swimming team, all like that, and I became lifeguard certified. And to work at a pool, all the girls were at the pool, so we're a better place to get a summer job than working as a lifeguard. And then in the military, serving in the military, they actually came out and were like, "Hey, we're looking for somebody that's lifeguard trained to take some special duty during the summer." And I was like, "I got you covered, man. For the goodness of the unit, I'll take a bullet and sit at the Fort Hood pool and work there for the summer instead of going to the field and doing what I had to do." So again, I found a way to make it work in my favor.
That's
Um,
great.
what caused me to join the military? Come from a military family,
Mm.
from my great grandfather in World War One, grandfather World War
Wow.
Two, my father in Vietnam, uncles that were in Korea, serving and going through. I was Marine Corps ROTC in high school. Went to
Mm.
Quantico, went through all of that, and did that through the high school portions. When it came to sign up, I decided I wanted to join in. I was going to go in. At first, I was going to go in under nukes and work with nukes, and got into kind of a match with the recruiter about some things and what they were trying to push and sign up for. So I decided, no, I'm gonna switch and go to communications. And so I signed up to be originally. This is that recruiter. You're listening. He uh, I was looking at fixed station communications, meaning inside. And when the paperwork was all signed and done, I was going through with it all. What I actually had signed up for was combat communications,
Mm.
and I basically rolled out and got through basic, went into AIT, and they're like, "All right, you're going here, you're going here," and they're like, "I'm supposed to be a fixed station radio operator guy," and he's like, "Do you see this? Is that your name, your signature? You see this right here?" He's like, "Son, you're an RTO. That's a radio telephone operator." I'm like, "That's not what they're like." He goes, "Well, that's what you signed. You can bring that up with your recruiter later." And I'm like, he goes, "But this is
Classic.
what you're going for." And I, yeah, you always just make it work. And so
Sure.
got a
Sure.
got sent to Fort Hood with the 13th Corps Support under the 180th, which was attached to CAV and everything.
Hmm.
Everywhere CAV went, we basically were support for them and rolled through with them and set up all the radio transmissions for them. So uh, I guess I wouldn't say I'm a frontline guy, but I'm a front line and a half. I'm right behind them as we move forward. So
Hmm.
all my buddies got CIBs and what they got. And I don't, radio doesn't qualify for that. They didn't have the combat action badge back then. You either had a
Mm.
CIB or you didn't. And so all my buddies that were all around me, my brothers that went forth, were getting theirs, and I don't have mine. We make jokes about wearing our blue cords and not. So,
So it sounds like you also had siblings that served around the same time.
no. So out of my brothers, my other two brothers did not serve. The only other
Mm.
relative, I have a younger cousin that ended up joining the Air Force.
Hmm.
But as the middle brother said it, he was too ornery, and the little one that I say little one, he's now bigger than me. The youngest, he was that there was no way he was going to be military. It's just not his
Mm.
forte. And so the middle one was I'll hit a drill sergeant if he tells me what to do. Yeah, okay, yeah, sure you will. So
And growing up, or as you were going through service, or even after service, did your uh, grandparents or dad talk to you about their service at any point?
yeah, my grandfather. Uh, really opened up to me. By the time I joined the military, my great grandfather had passed away. I knew that he was
Hmm.
in World War One. He was a cab guy. We actually had pictures of him with a saber on horseback in
Wow,
World War One, and they had him jumping over a hedgerow. He's got the saber up and everything. We got his picture, so we've got pictures of that. Um,
amazing.
my grandfather in World War II, until I joined, he never really shared too many of his stories. I knew that he was
Hmm.
in the service, but didn't know where. But once I joined the military and I came back home, and then it wasn't too long after that that I went off to Desert Storm. And when I came home, he was at the airport and was hugging me, and then he started sharing the stories about what he went through in World War II. Uh, my father had joined and was in Vietnam, but he got basically rear echeloned and never went into combat. Was never outside of the wire, and basically, he doesn't consider himself a Vietnam vet because he didn't see any action. Was completely safe where he was at all times. So he had a different take on the service, but his friends and stuff that did, and growing up, his friends that came over when I was probably too young to hear some of those stories, and I got to hear them, what those things going on. But my grandfather in World War II, he he saw some stuff and went through a lot and broke down. My grandfather on my mother's side was in Okinawa, so he ended up going into Japan, and he came out. He still didn't tell a lot about what he did, and he was with the Marines, and he wouldn't go into any detail at all. I just remember knowing that he was a Marine, and he was just like, no, those are my stories. I don't share those, and so he wouldn't talk about it at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm glad to hear you got some stories out of one of your grandparents in World War II, because of course, this is why I ask, because I know, generally speaking, that generation didn't typically speak about their service or what happened. So it's good to whatever, carry their story forward and just know that that piece of history can continue. So good to hear that. Moving into when you went through basic and then finished basic and get assigned to what you later on went to do. Curious what that process was like, both for you personally, and then also just generally speaking, what the trajectory into your role was.
Coming from a very strict family, very much so. If you were in trouble at home, Dad was 2 inches off your face like a drill sergeant, and you were standing at attention, and that was home life. So going in, and then of course going through ROTC with the Marine Corps and working through that, I got to do a 2 week, they call it a basic training, but you're in high school, you weren't enlisted, so it wasn't true true Marine Corps basic. But you went through all the running, gunning, and shooting, and
Sure.
up early, out late, and physical fitness. And so going into basic, I knew exactly what to expect, and it didn't bother me. So learning how to, as they say, play the game, I already knew about the game, so I wasn't worried about it. I knew that, hey, for the next 8 to 12 weeks, I'm not going to get much sleep. So I'll sleep when I can. You're not going to get much food, so just wolf it down and don't worry. Something else will come along and you can move. And yeah, no matter if you do it right or you do it wrong, you're going to do push-ups and you're going to go running and you're going to do this, and just pay attention to what you're doing, listen, and follow the directions. And yeah, to me, the basic wasn't all that hard in the mental game of it. Learning what we had to learn and go through with everything. I was paying attention. I wanted to do the best that I could. So that part, I felt like I had under control. Arriving at a duty station for the first time, which was Fort Hood for me, and getting there, I remember when they said you're going to Texas, and I was like, I've lived my whole life in Virginia. I didn't know anything about Texas more than the Alamo, the TV show Dallas, and I was like, I don't know what to expect out of it. Like, are there deserts there? What is it like? And you get there and you're just like, all right, this looks like every military base I'd ever been on. So you didn't see outside of Texas; you just saw Fort Hood. Then the heat hit, and you're like, oh, this is what it's about. It's pretty hot here. So. Got in and made friends with my counterparts that were out there, my brothers and sisters, guys that I'm still in contact with today. My best friend in the world is one of the guys I met when I got to Fort Hood. He's the godfather of my son. I'm the godfather of his son. Matter of fact, he named his son's middle name is Shiloh. So
That's
it's just
awesome.
like, all right, so we've got strong bonds that have lasted a lifetime and will continue to last. So
yeah, that's awesome. That's great to hear it. So walk to us what it was like getting to your duty station, integrating with your team, and learning your trade.
So you learn one thing in school, and it's going to be like this, and you get this idea that you're going to be doing this and running around, and you get to your duty station and you're like, all we're doing is it's practice every day. It's just a lot of practice over and over and over. You're just getting up and doing things, and the littlest tiny things that people know. They're not worried about the actual radio, because I was working radio. They weren't worried about the radio transmission they're setting up. Somebody was going through, you forgot to put a washer on the back side of this mount. We're shutting down the whole vehicle. And you're like, bro, what? They just like, but you learn to be meticulous about things. Hey, you got my E7 that I had. If you're going to splice wire back together for a field phone and do all of this, you got exactly 6 inches of tape to make all your connections with. And he's like, you're going to learn how to stretch it and how to make it go on right and save this and do this. So in case you're in a tight spot, you can make it work. And you're like, oh, okay. The part that was hardest for me, because at that point I was still single, the part where things became hard for me is after I was married and my son was born. Literally got orders to leave for Turkey for 2 years. And it was at that point that I was like, my son's 1 month old. What do you mean I'm leaving for 2 years? Or at the first point, it was going to be a 15-month deployment. So you're going to go over for 15 months. And I just like, okay, I'm packing up my stuff. I got to leave my wife and my child sitting here alone. You have this responsibility, this protector image of yourself, that you're protecting your family, you're doing all this, and now you're just going to leave them alone for 15 months. And we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have internet. You had paper letters that you could write, and maybe you could get a hold of a phone call, and that was about it. And so I get overseas, and I found out that on top of that, you're not necessarily in the U.S. Army anymore. You're in NATO. The rules are different. There's not a military base. You're living on the economy. So I have a Turkish landlord, Turkish neighbors, and I'm living in an apartment. And I find out that, hey, now that you're here, you can get your family a green card and you can bring them over as immigrants. And I'm like, how do we do that? And I call my wife and I'm like, hey, what do you think about living over here? First, is it safe? Well, yeah, it's safe. There's nothing going on here. We're fine. It's just, you're going to get over here. It's just going to be you, me, and the baby, and nobody else. There's not even TV that we can pick up over here. There's no cell phones. Didn't know what a cell phone was really.
Yeah.
And you're like, there's no pay phones. There's no air conditioning. It's all fans, and it's the Mediterranean. It's going to be tough, but we'll be together, because she had moved back home, with her mom and dad. And she's like, yeah, we got to be together. And so, here he is, newlyweds, 1 year married, brand new 4-month-old baby. My wife comes over, and I get her moved into the apartment with me that I have there, and she has her her green card that's going to allow her. But if you bring your family over and you do that, they extend your tour out to 24 months. So I'm like, we'll have to stay longer than the 15. We'll have to do 24. And so, which meant my son was going to be 2 years old in 4 months by the time we got back. And we're like, okay, this is what we'll do. But we learned a lot, because being young, 21, she's 19, baby, and you're living together over there, you're learning still to be a couple, and you got ripped away from any type of support.
Yeah.
So she didn't have mom and dad. She didn't have her friends to go to. If anything, we had to figure out ourselves. And it really made us stronger in our own personal relationship that way, because we had to talk to each other. There's nobody else to talk to. If you were mad, you had to talk it out. There was no, I'm leaving, I'm going to go over to my mom, or I'm going to go, my friends are here to, back me up on my side. There was none of that. So we learned to interface with each other, work with each other, and we stopped playing all those games you play and the little attitudes that you kind of throw towards each other, because it's real easy to get in fights with your loved ones. And we learned real quick not to do that, and to not have those little things that piss each other off, and or do that. So we learned to rely on each other really good, and like I said, we've been married ever since. So does really well for us. And
Sure.
I hear
That's
my
sorry, go ahead.
no, just my friends that have gone through that. They're like, "Oh man, you're never going to make it. You're both too young. You got all this." I literally think it made us stronger as
Sure.
individuals and as a couple and as parents.
Hmm.
And when we came back, hey, we're self sufficient. We know how to save. We know how to do this. We work with this. We're you know you learn how to stretch things because you don't have much over there, right? And
Hmm.
so you're like, okay, you learn how to make things count and what you're doing and how you work it. And then God bless my wife, she's 19 years old, living with overseas in a Turkish country on the economy with no support. And by the way, I was working 12 and 16-hour shifts. So I
Hmm.
would leave for 12 to 16 hours. So now she's by herself in this country that's got, bars on the windows and prayer horns are going off and, people are running around. And she's just like, this is so strange for me. It was just, a shock, a culture shock. The first time that they had Bayram and Ramadan, and they're coming through beating the drums early in the morning to get people up before sunrise, or when they did they literally had a goat that they slaughtered and were giving out the meat, and they did that, which was essentially in our backyard. And I come home, and she's got this terrified look on her face, like there were animals screaming in the backyard, and I didn't know what to do, so I shut all the windows and hid. And I'm like,
Fair enough.
it's fine. This is what's going on. She's like,
Yeah.
well, you know that. That would have been good information for you to tell me. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I didn't think that this was something that would affect you or that we would run into, but now we know. And we still laugh about that today.
Hmm. Yeah, that's first of all really tough, and a lot of respect to your wife for being able to go through that at that age with a child uh, by herself for a lot of the time, right? While you were on a shift on duty. That's an awesome story, and I especially appreciate how you were able to spin that into personal and you know family growth overall.
Yeah.
I think that's an amazing point and amazing way to kind of take advantage of the situation. And then lastly, it's a great way to highlight the difficulties in service going beyond just the service member, the individual, and reflecting how it can impact family as well.
Oh,
Was
yeah.
that immediate to getting to your unit, or did you have something occur before?
Meaning before she came over, kind of.
Sorry, yeah, meaning the deployment to NATO. Uh, did that
Oh, no,
happen like right as you joined?
no. So I joined the military, got sent to Fort Hood, was at Fort Hood, was there for a year or more. Then Saudi Arabia broke out. I say Saudi Arabia, the Iraqi war with Desert Storm and Desert
Hmm.
Shield. Served in that, came back. That's when I got married, and it was a year after that that I got sent to Turkey. I had actually gotten injured in Saudi Arabia during Desert Storm and came back, was on like a permanent profile. My left foot had been shattered and broken at the ankle and just mangled. And so they had to pin it back on.
Hmm.
But they were waiting for it to finish healing. And that's when I ended up going over to Turkey. Um, and while I was in Turkey, they like, hey, we were able to get you in for the surgery to fix it. You're going to go to Incirlik Air Base in Turkey and have the surgery there. So they literally put my foot back on, and because I was wearing a boot and a brace and was having to walk with canes and stuff, and so they basically quote unquote fixed, as in permanently fixed. It doesn't flex, and they put three pins through my ankle and then cut me through my hip, took bones out of my hip and packed it into the ankle, and basically grew it into one solid piece at the bottom. So it's
Wow.
there's no joints in that left ankle
Hmm.
anymore. And when it fused up, and then when I got done with the surgery over there, we came back stateside, and then it was another couple of years stateside, and then they're like, hey, um, if you can't run, you can't soldier. If you can't soldier, you need to get out. And And so I ended up getting my medical out for that one.
Right.
And they came through and said, okay, this, kind of where I was at. So I
Right.
like to
Got
make a joke that says, I don't let it slow me down, but if you ever see me running, you need to run too.
it. Yeah. That's good. I like that. So let's kind of do reverse order. So talk to us about, like, I mean, you just told us about your Turkey deployment. I'll call it deployment. So before that, talk to us about the workup for Desert Shield, what that was like, and then rolling into Desert Storm.
And so, yeah, I remember being on base and, going out and doing field exercises, training and working, learning basically your craft for communication and learning to put in support for our units as we go into field exercising, making sure you got everyone's on the right frequency, all the fills are in, all the SOIs, all the equipment is up and running, everyone is set and going. You're never more than arm's reach from the commander when we're out of the vehicles and running, and if you're in the vehicles, everything is up and transmitting, and communication's always going and going back and forth. And then they're like, hey, there's something starting and kicking off in Iraq. There's this guy named Saddam Hussein that's doing all of this and this, and we're like, what's going to happen? And everyone was unsure at the time. And then I was part of the pre-deployment, so we went over early, and they're like, hey, box up, get everything set. We're gonna head over to Saudi Arabia. And I remember, now this was before I was married, so I ended up, I remember calling my dad and speaking with him because when I was going to join the service, he's like, well, if you're joining right now is the perfect time to join. There's no wars, there's nothing going on, everything's fine. And I was like, well, all right. And so I ended up joining. So I remember calling him up going, yeah, there's no wars going on, huh? That's where I'm going. We're going in the middle of the desert. I'm like, forget jungle training, forget woodland camo. And that's another thing. We're all still wearing our greens and our camos, and we're getting ready to deploy out for Desert Storm. And we're wearing all these green uniforms in the middle of the desert and had to wait. We went, like I said, pre-party, so we had to wait for our uniforms to get shipped to us to get our actual desert uniforms while we were over there. That was another kind of fun thing. We're driving around trying to figure out how to paint vehicles and what we're going to do to help camouflage, and how do you live in the desert? Nobody had ever trained for desert warfare besides NTC, and then you're just like, okay, how do we, what do we do? How do we do this? And you deploy, you get over there, you get off the plane. I swear it was 113 degrees when you stepped out onto the tarmac, and you're just like, oh Lord, I left it. It was October when I left, and I get here and it's blazing hot. And I do remember grabbing they had these large liter bottles of water set out for us as we're manually unloading the plane. And you fly over, you're there as the military, and you're not on a civilian flight that's offering you peanuts and coffee and tea. And you get off the plane, it's like, hey, you have to unload it. And we're like, what? Here, get a ladder, climb up into the bottom of the belly of the plane and start throwing out all the equipment and catch it all. And you get done, and it's hot and sweaty, and they have bottles of water for us. And you open up this bottle of water, and it's salty. And you're like, oh my God, this water tastes salty. I'm like, oh. It only takes about a week before you don't taste the salt anymore, and you're craving it. You're just like, I understand why the water was salty, but I'm like, it doesn't taste salty. In the beginning, you're like, there's no way I can drink a liter of water and all. And now you're like, I need two just with my meal. And you could down it and put it down, and then you get all your stuff together, you gear up, and you're like, all right, we're rolling out. So convoying through the middle of the desert and jumping 200 miles north, and you're waiting to see what you're going to run into, and the stories that you're fighting up against a trained army that's got all this, and those guys have been out there. What we didn't know is they had been abandoned on their line. So as we come rolling up in Abrams tanks and everything that we've got rolling, these guys were willing to surrender for a sandwich because they were starving to death. Just like, okay, just keep going that way. We got to keep moving forward. And so we had people surrendering and trying to surrender to us all the time. And we're like, we're too busy moving forward. You got to, somebody behind you will pick you up or tell you what to do. And then there were Scud attacks. The Scud missiles started coming in, and we taking cover for that and waiting. And I remember getting the first call on that one and going, I'm not artillery. I don't know what a Scud is. What the hell's a Scud? I remember one of my sergeants goes, it's pretty much so the Kmart version of a missile. You kind of launch it that way, and you don't really have control where it goes or where it's going to come down. And you're just like, okay, maybe these guys aren't as tough as what we think. Like, well, our missiles are so complex that we can shoot their missiles out of the sky with our missiles. Or like, really? And then you got to see the Patriot missile systems go into effect, and that's literally what they were doing. We're knocking missiles out of the sky with another missile. And then if there was anybody that was putting up a fight, our Abrams rolled through 60 miles an hour through the desert, could jump and hit targets, just bam, 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 bam. And we roll up afterwards, and you're taking a look, and you're just seeing these holes through a tank. And you walk up and look inside; it's sterile inside. They were shooting, depleted uranium rounds that were burning so hot that it created a vacuum inside of the tank when it cleared out the other side. And there wasn't even fiber on the chair pans. It sucked the cushions and the fiber off. It was literally sterilely clean on the inside. And we're just like, yeah, don't go in there. It might still be radiated. I don't know it, but you're just like, just massive amount of military that rolled through, and the speed that we rolled. You're just like, I can't believe how fast we're going. It was like the only time we stopped is, hey, we need more fuel. Bring the trucks up, refuel, rearm, get what we need, load up with this, let's roll. Just constantly roll, and just like, and then they're like, okay, stop. We got to the point where we need to clear. We're done. We pushed them back into Iraq. Stop right here. I do remember
what was that?
I remember we moved forward, and we're supposed to be jumping forward. We're supposed to be one of the first units coming in, and where we rolled up to take up our spot was north of Batar, the Wadi Batin, Wadi al Batin, just like the river of Batin. And we rolled up there, and there's 101st Air Force, 101st Airborne. I apologize. 101st Airborne guys were there. I'm rolling in. Here I am, young private, not knowing anything, and I'm like, "You guys are airborne?" And I'm like, "You," and they're like, "No, we didn't parachute yet. We came in on choppers and landed." And we're like, "Well, we're supposed to take over these positions." And the guy was there. He goes, "Well, we've already got foxholes dug. Do you want to use ours, or do you want us to fill them in?" I'm like, "I don't want to have to dig them again. Don't fill them in. I'll take yours." And then filling lots of sandbags. We had a lot of downtime, and filling up sandbags, making our own little bunkers and structures and stuff out in the middle, just out in the middle of the desert. First time I seen a real desert rat. It looked like it had dreadlocks on it. The thing was all woolly and everything. I was like, "What is that? Look at a dog." And they're like, that's a desert rat. And you're just like, rat? That thing's huge, man. It's like this big, and it looks like a black mop.
Yeah,
it's a rat. Yeah. And then you saw the tail, and you're like, yeah, just let it go. Like, don't shoot it, because nobody wants to smell it. And just like,
right. So what was that kind of time frame from initially landing till I guess toward the end of being there?
I got there in October of '90, and so it was October. It was March, April '91 when we were completely done and we're boxing up to come home. So.
Yeah. So did you know at some point, like, okay, we're closing up and we're gonna come back home, or was that like an unknown until it actually happened?
It was unknown how far we were going to go and what we were going to do. I remember I was on radio watch the night that we actually kicked off the ground war. And so the ground war was actually rolling in, and we get the communications, hey, it's war, declaration's been signed, we're now moving from Operation Desert Shield. We had never even heard the name Desert Storm until they announced it to us. We're like, holy cow. So we're waking up the commander, bringing them over to the tent, giving them the communications and everything. And somebody drove out, I think it was the chaplain. He was down south, and he comes rolling into the camp to go forward with everybody. And he'd been all the way south at the port, and he had a Stars and Stripes issue with him, and it says, "It's war." And I was like, how did the Stars and Stripes get printed? He get a copy of it and bring it to us. All of it was like, that's pretty fast, man. I'm like, you start realizing this was already planned out ahead of time. It was going to happen on me. We didn't know it at that time. And then you're like, all right, well, it's full on war, and we're moving forward. And I do remember coming to a spot where we got told to stop, and we're halted and waiting. And A-10s, the Warhawks, came flying in, and I felt like they were 20 feet above our head. They're probably further than that, but these guys were coming in really low, and they went up over these dunes in front of us, and you could just hear the guns going off, just, and just blowing stuff up, and we're just like, do we go over and take a look? And they're like, no, don't raise your head up, don't move from this position, stay exactly where you are until they're done. And then they got done and flew back, and we go over the top, and they're over the next dune, there were armaments and vehicles, and they came in and took them all out. So as we came through, literally just rolled right past them. And you're just like, holy cow, like that's one awesome piece of machinery.
Yeah,
right? That's cool. I've always had a dream to meet an A-10 pilot that fought in desert, flew the sorties in Desert Storm, because literally they took care of business for us. It was pretty badass. So.
Yeah, definitely is. Definitely is. So what was it like, understanding after being there for, I mean, it's a pretty long time, especially given the circumstances. So once you understood that you were coming home, what was that situation like for you?
You think the ground war or the air war had started way before, during the Desert Shield time frame, and then all of a sudden we get the changeover to Desert Storm, and it's ground war. We're moving forward. We're thinking we're going to go all the way into Iraq. We're going all the way to Baghdad. No, all we did was make it across Kuwait, drove them out of Kuwait, and we stopped there. And we're just like, right, we're right here on the border. Now what? And then, next thing you hear, the war's over. So it was almost a shock, because we're just like, well, that was quick. But at the same time, you know how fast we're rolling. You're like, well, yeah, it's over. We've made it all the way across the country in 2 days. 60 miles an hour. It just hauled ass, and everybody retreated or surrendered, and we're just like, are we not going forward? And I had a captain at that time, Captain Mitchell, and he came to us and he goes, look, they don't want a repeat of Vietnam. In Vietnam, there was no exit strategy. They didn't know when they were going to stop. So they said, hey, when you get to this point, when you get to this area, if you push them back past that parallel, this is our stop. We're setting up our define. And once we run them through there, if they say they have surrendered, if they're stopping, we're done. We're good. And we were like, okay. And he goes, it's mission accomplished. And we're like,
fair enough.
I can take that.
Yeah.
I can take that. We were saying, so shocked that it was done kind of quick in one aspect, the ground war portion of it. But the other part, you go, well, no, man, we were here for 6 months ahead of time, bombing them with scalpel-like precision that hadn't been seen before. And we rolled through at 60 miles an hour, not 15, and we just went so quick, so fast, so well executed that you're like, the plan came together and it all worked out.
Sure.
Left hook, it worked. So
yeah, that all makes sense. Pretty awesome to hear from your perspective on how that went. So you finish that deployment, you get back home. What happens next?
You're coming home. You're single, and you're realizing, hey, I'm a 20-year-old. I was there 19, turned 20 in the desert. I'm coming home. Hey, I'm 20 years old. I'm a war vet. I've served my time. I'm I could get out, and you start having these delusions. Oh, I'm gonna come back and buy a Corvette and cruise and pick up all the women, and I'm gonna be just be a superstar, and I'm gonna do this. I'll get out and I can go do whatever I want. And then you're just like, I get back, and what I do, I fall square in love with a little girl. I get married. I extend my time in the military. As soon as I sign my extension paperwork, I get notifications. You're going to Turkey.
Mm.
Oh, okay.
So going through that's a wild set of circumstances. So we understand the context of Turkey because you shared that with us. Um, on your kind of like day to day kind of perspective, what was happening? Anything come to mind like similar to the stories that you shared about being in Desert Storm, Desert Shield, but now in Turkey?
The day to day living in Turkey, what we're going through. So
Yeah.
there, because Desert Storm had happened and the Kurds and Turkish were still fighting, and we were NATO, I wasn't allowed to wear a military uniform, and you weren't supposed to do anything that made you stand out as American. So you weren't
Mm.
supposed to wear Americanized clothing. You weren't supposed to wear a uniform. You would get on what looked like a civilian bus that would transfer you to the base that we were going to. That was outside of the city, and you learn that hey, there's still threats that are out here. They were terroristic threats for the first time in my life. That you had Kurds coming in and making improvised bombs. They would take grenades and put them into sand castles at beaches and park areas, pack a grenade in it, pull the pin, and leave it, and wait for little kids or somebody to come kick the sand castles down. They would blow up, or they would put it in a package and go to a bus stop and set it down at the bus stop to blow up a bus stop, or whatever they could do to disrupt things. And so you're like, okay, we really got to watch for this and watch for that, and start to look at people and realize that, hey, just because it isn't war and somebody's not in a uniform, things are different. So the hypervigilance of watching things really started at that point. You start looking at things and wondering, is this something that's going to blow up? Is this somebody that I can trust? Or you'd see a group of people walking down the street, and they point you out there on the other side of the street, and they literally will point at you, and all of a sudden, a group of males all cross the street together and start walking towards you, and you're just like, are they just looking at me because I'm odd, because I stand out, or am I fixing to get into a fight, or am I going to get stabbed? And then of course they would say things out loud to you or whatnot. They learn real quick who's American, who's not, and the Americans go home, that kind of thing. You're just like, okay, I just have to. And again, learning how to deal with those kind of things, you learn to be, I'm not going to get pissed off. I'm out here by myself. Something happens, it's just me. There's not even 911 to call, so you're like, you're not going to get in a fight here. You're not going to do these kind of things. So you learn to deal with your own stress, your own things. You can say what you want. I'm not even going to speak out loud to you. If I learned to speak Turkish, but then I was like, no, I'm not even going to bother answering. I'm just going to walk past, do what I have to do. Become friends with some of the, taxi drivers. Hey, if we got to go here and do this, I'll go down, talk to the taxi driver that I know, have him come to my house, load me, my wife, my kid up so we can go over to the APO or the American PX, and we can shop for the day and come back. But just learn to be very, very guarded of myself, my family, and any news. The little village right outside of the nuclear camp that we were at the base, it was literally inside of a mountain. So all you saw was a mountain with fences on it, and you go on the inside for the launch tube. But the little village that was right outside, one of the guys picked up a newspaper. They had their own newspaper they would print out like once a quarter, and the locals there said they noticed, because they're looking at the bus that would come through, and they'd see a bus pull up with a mixture, because there was Americans, Germans, Canadians, Italians. There was everybody. It was all NATO, so they're all in there. and they'd see this mix of males and females and different races and different ethnics getting onto this bus, driving into this mountain, and the bus basically disappears. The bus comes back empty. 24 hours later, somebody else gets pulled in to relieve those, and they come out. So this newspaper wrote this story, and we had one of the guys that could read Turkish really well, and it said that they thought, the village thought that it was forces that were creating super soldiers by breeding people together, that we were there to breed underground to create super soldiers, because they knew it had to do something with the military, and this was in print
Mm-hmm.
in their paper, that this is what they thought was going on. And so we all got a big kick out of it. Even the ladies that were on the bus were just like, yeah, I don't think so. I mean, like, are they crazy? They think that that's, like, this is what they put in their paper. They don't have anything
That's
to
funny.
base it off of and nothing to correct it on. And that was one of the funniest things that we kind of
Sure.
laughed about. So
Sure. Yeah, that is funny. Were you with a bunch of other Americans, or were you really just by yourself there?
I was with, and on my schedule that I was working, I had about me and three
Mm-hmm.
Americans that worked together. But my close working partners were Turkish, German, and Italian.
Mm.
Um, very strong guy. I got to learn a lot about the Turkish country and about Muslims from a guy named Ahmet Yeniyai. He was a staff sergeant, and we would work over there together, and he would explain things. We were very like-minded in each. We just happened to come from two different parts of the world, and we would talk
Mm-hmm.
about things. And he would ask me questions like, "Oh, you're from Texas?" And he's like, "Yeah," because I've heard of that. And he's like, do you ride horses everywhere? Do you have to worry about Indians? He just saw old westerns, and he thought
Sure.
that's what it was still like. And we're like, no, no, nobody lives like that anymore. It's like living in Izmir. It's like living here. And he's like,
Mm-hmm.
really? And well, you're from Turkey. And he's like, well, not everywhere. Not everyone wears burqas and stuff like that. Oh, not in the city. That's over in this part of the country.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about religion. We talked about faith. We talked about family. I mean, we were spending 12, 16 hours together, so you really got to know each other. So,
Sure. And it sounded like your kind of your day-to-day mission set there was guarding that base. Is that
so
what
in
it
there,
was?
I ran the communications
Mm.
for the nuclear launch hub. So, uh, NATO has their own circuit of nuclear weapons.
Mm.
You have launch tubes and everything, and my job was to run the communications. So if you receive satellite communications coming in saying fire it up and here's the launch codes, here's the coordinates for it, you would receive that transmission. It would be encoded. So I would receive the coded messages, make sure that it gets transmitted correctly and it's on a legit line and everything is authenticated. It would then go to the operations supports where they would decode it.
Mm-hmm.
The decoded folks would then send their message over to the folks that would enter in the launch controls. Launch controls, would then send it into the folks that would fire it up and get it started, unhook and unlatch everything, and then we, receive the note that stand down. We never launched, but we do all these drills like we'd get ready to, and
Mm-hmm.
so you're just like, that was another scary thing. You're like, we literally have nukes. If this goes through and we're turning the keys and hitting it, and the launch goes, the two people aren't even in the same room. They're in two
Mm.
separate areas, and they literally communicate to each other when they turn and lock and how they're going to do it. So you're like, there's no way one person can do it, or somebody could get access to one room. And they look at each other. All of that's Hollywood.
Mm.
Uh, but there were real nukes in there. That was a little bit scary. That we're like, okay, is this
Man.
World War III we're going to launch and do and see? Are we going to take somebody off the map? And then you get to go into the war room and see the big world map laid out, trajectories of where it's supposed to go. And they would tell you, okay, this is a drill scenario that, there's invaders in the U.S. and we're going to launch our missiles against the U.S. to take out invaders at a time. And you're just like, that's scary. We're going to launch against our own country to take out invaders that are taking over. That was just a scenario that would play out,
Mm-hmm.
and other ones would be different things. Party guys. It's like, yeah.
That's wild. That's very wild. And I mean, I'm guessing that the answer to this is yes, because of, you having done this, but is it like, I guess, a typical allocation of the Army to be sending, service members to NATO stations?
Oh yeah, yep.
Mm.
When you're part of NATO, if there's a requirement for NATO forces to be there, NATO as a general force will send
Hmm.
folks to those different places. So
Yeah.
if let's take Ukraine for example. Ukraine was a part of NATO, very much so. You could have someone assigned to NATO forces. They're no longer U.S. forces,
Mm.
but you would have Americans serving in NATO that would be over there performing some sort of duty under the orders of NATO.
Yeah. 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 I actually didn't necessarily know how that worked, or if it was active service members or
It,
people just signing up directly to NATO. Yeah.
it
I
was
didn't
really
understand that. Yeah.
it was really confusing in some parts because like my counterpart was Turkish.
Right.
My sergeant major was German.
Right.
My commander was Italian. And we walk in and you look at each other like, I don't know if I salute you, if you outrank me, if I outrank you. We're not wearing uniforms. This is
Mm.
really odd. What do we? And we're just like, well, you can call me Steve. Go through all of this, and you're like, okay,
Yeah. It's a
Hans,
little
what are we
odd. Yeah.
doing today? Oh, let's try to get through the day without launching missiles on people. That's not up to me, but if you say so, I'm up for it.
Right.
And we would just, it was, but yeah, you're just kind of like, I have a German sergeant major. I'm like, how
Hmm.
does just like,
Yeah. Funky circumstance. So
just
you're getting toward the end of that deployment, I'll call it. I guess, what's it feel like, given you're there with your wife and young child, baby son? How's it feel to, finish that deployment and come back home?
oh, it was amazed to get home because literally you're then surrounded by other Americans. Like I said, we lived on the economy. My
Hmm.
neighbors are all Turkish. Everybody is Turkish.
Hmm.
The most Americanized thing that we would get is about once a month we would get a package in the mail of 18-inch square box that was packed full of VCR tapes. My mother-in-law would literally buy bought two boxes full, so we'd send them back and forth. We'd mail them to her, she'd mail them to us, and she would literally just put it into the television and hit record. What commercials, anything that happened to be on that one channel, she would just
Yeah.
record it until the tape was completely full, take it out, put another one in, and whatever was on, you got to watch.
Yeah.
So if you're watching old reruns of Cheers and uh, you know Wheel of Fortune and the Brady Bunch, whatever happened to come on TV is what you got to watch. But you could at least put it in and have it playing while you're in the house, so there was something going on. Because, like I said, if you didn't have, we didn't have Turkish television. Our
Hmm.
TV ran on different voltage and everything, and didn't pick up the signal. So we could hook up a VCR, watch VCR tapes of just anything. It was just kind of weird because it'd be like, you know, thunderstorm warning and blah blah blah, and you're just looking at it, and you're looking outside, and you're like, oh yeah, there's no thunderstorm here. That's over there. But
That's
you get
funny.
to watch, you be for 2 years. And so the pop culture trends and
Hmm.
what's the latest sandwich at Burger King, and whatever was going on, and what's going on in the news station. You'd watch news that would come on and everything. Just like, what would be really weird is somebody came in and clicked the channel on the TV in her house. She'd be like, no, 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 click it
Yeah.
back, it's
Right.
recording. Somebody would click the channel, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, what
Something
happened? And also
different.
the channel, which you didn't hear anybody else talking, you just see the channel
Hmm.
change back. But it was recording that, and you're like, somebody changed the channel. And so that was our
That's
big
funny.
thing, was to have that. But we get back stateside. One of the first things that was cool coming through the airport is hearing other people speak English,
Hmm.
and just the custom things of like, you walk up and somebody holds the door open for you, and you're just like, this hasn't happened for 2 years. This is a
Yeah.
weird feeling. Of course, we didn't drive for 2 years, so coming
Mm.
back, we bought a car, and you're just like, man, it feels weird to drive in the U.S. again, and there's
Hmm.
rules because they drive on the sidewalk, and it was just super crowded in the city, and it was just like,
Hmm.
okay. Everybody was blowing their horns all the time. They walked around, blowing their
Right.
horns inside. So that part was
So,
different. And you could go to the grocery store, and there were so many choices. We're just like, oh my God, look, you've got 5 different kinds of sandwich bread, not one. You've got every soft drink available instead of just Coke and Diet Coke. There,
hmm
you've got fresh milk instead of boxed milk.
hmm
There's, frozen foods, breakfast cereal. We didn't have breakfast cereal while we were there.
hmm
So little things like that, you kind of just like, oh, this is so good. This is so good. Of course,
Sure. Yeah.
all your friends and family are wanting to know, hey, how is it? What was it like over there? Are you okay? Yeah, I wouldn't mind going back to Turkey as a civilian and
hmm
getting to view things as a civilian and be a tourist. So to
hmm
see how different it is. So, of course,
Sure.
at
Sure.
this time period, it was well, for Turkey at that time period was a very uh, hard pressed for economic times,
hmm
and so it's like, okay, uh,
Sure. Yeah. Tough living, essentially.
it was tough living over there for those. There was a lot of inner turmoil, and then there was a lot
hmm
of the Kurds were displaced, so they were creating as much chaos as they could inside of Turkey. And so you go, all right, is it more stabilized now? Would it be a good time to go back and visit? What things do I want to go see? What I want to do? It'd be kind of cool to go find my old apartment that we had over there and just
Sure.
go look at it and go, hey, look, they still have the ceiling fan because they didn't have any ceiling fans. We bought a ceiling fan and put it up, and the landlord was like, "It has to stay. You put it there. You can't take it back down. There'll be holes in the ceiling because the whole place is concrete, ceiling, floors, walls,
Right.
everything concrete." And so we're just like, "You can keep it. I don't care. I just got to have some air moving in here. There's no central air, so."
Yeah. That's wild. That's wild. So when you're back, I guess you also know at that point you're going to be on like in the path of medically retired, or like you knew you were finishing service as well. Yeah.
Yeah, because I came back, like I said, I was healing up from the surgery and everything,
hmm
and I remember I literally, was still walking with a cane at that point, and going through the airport and going to my first unit that I got to, and go to check in, and here you come walking in with a briefcase, and you got all your documents and everything in it, and you're coming in, and um, being the job that I held over there, I had a very high security clearance,
mm
super high security clearance, working with nuke launch codes and White House
Right.
clearances and everything. So secret background investigation with White House authorization, and get back and you go into your unit and they're like, "Why is your security clearance so hot? So if you're a radio operator coming back to this unit, why do you have such a high security clearance?" And it doesn't say anything more than you were stationed in Turkey with NATO. What is, and the folks didn't know what that meant and what to expect. I remember a
hmm
commander for my last unit that was in 16th Signal. I come back and he's like, "Look, if you're undercover, I need to know about it. If you're here to investigate somebody in my, I'm like, I'm undercover. I'm not CIA. I'm not. I'm not. I'm like, what? No. He's like, well, you got to really. He goes, your security clearance is higher than the battalion commanders. And I'm like, oh, well, sir, I said, I could tell you, but you don't have the clearance. And he's like, don't play with me. And I'm like, I'm not playing with you, and you don't have the clearance. But I'm like, no, I did this because of what I was working on over there. And he's like,
hmm
well, we need to have your security clearance downgraded. And I'm like, no, don't take the effort to downgrade it. I said, I'm getting out of the military because of my leg. As soon as I get all the boards and everything done here for that, I said, I'll probably try to use the fact that I hold that clearance to get my job on the outside.
hmm
Little did I know I was going to, go to work for Advanced Micro Devices, not, not something prestigious and secret clearance needed.
Right.
No.
Still smart to think about. You might need it, because why not? So what kind of a time frame was that between kind of what you're talking about and then literally finishing service?
So I joined in '89. Was in Desert Shield, Desert Storm 90 and 91. Got married in 91. Went to Turkey 93. Got back from Turkey 95. And then I ended up getting out partway through 96. So six
Hmm.
and a half years total was my
Yeah,
full time frame.
yeah. So I meant in the last piece, like between getting back from Turkey and literally finishing service. Like, how much time was that?
Uh, about a year and a half.
Oh,
Took up
okay,
a
yeah,
year and a half.
yeah.
Well, the time I got back, it took about a year and a half because they wanted you to go through rehab and become as fixed as you can be fixed
Okay.
before they put you out. And it was like, okay. And during that time frame, of course, I was a corporal, and because I couldn't make my E5 while on full profile. And so
Hmm.
they're like, look, you've been to PLBC, you've done this, you come to the top of the list twice for the top candidate to be promoted to sergeant, but you're on a permanent profile due to your leg, you can't be promoted for this. And they're like, okay, we're going to really start the paperwork for it. And I'm like, all right, they're going to get out, they're going to give you a full medical board on everything. And I'm like, well, the foot is what it is. I'm like, you can't move it. It's
Hmm.
fixed. It's 100% solid. So I can't move it. You can't move it. I don't know what there is to evaluate on it. Pretty much so I felt like just sign the paperwork and put me out. And
Yeah.
not knowing that I needed to go through boards and understand everything that was going to, hey, this is what's going to happen and here's how it's going to happen. I didn't get a lot of that back then. I didn't have a transition assistant specialist
Hmm.
back in those days, which they do have now.
Hmm.
So if you're getting out of the service, talk to a transition assistant specialist, somebody
Yeah.
that's going to help you transition out of the military. Uh, Document everything
Hmm.
just so that you have it, and take whatever classes are that you think you know what you don't. You don't know how the VA works. You don't realize that you go to the bottom of the list for everything compared to what walking in when you're active duty. So a lot of that are the big changes that I saw and like, okay.
Hmm.
Um, Prime example, I got out. I'm like, okay, I'm out. I guess I'll get a compensation check, or it's like $300-400 a month they would send you, and you're like, okay, so that's all I get. That's all I have. Not knowing about the VA and any of the benefits I could have used during that time
Hmm.
frame. It took me about 3 years after I was out before somebody said, hey, if you go up to Temple, Texas, they have the Desert Storm Registry. I'm like, what is that? They're like, well, where you go to register, it shows that you're a Desert Storm veteran and they can follow you for anything that happens, all the chemicals that we were covered in the shots that they gave us and any problems. And I'm like, okay, and what happened? They're like, we don't know, but you register. So it took me about 3 years. I go in and I go to see this. You got to think that was in 90 and 91. Got out in
Hmm.
96, so this would have been about 99 that I go to see the VA. I go in and there's a young doctor, female doctor that's working there, and she was from Korea and got her doctorate and then came over. She's working for the VA, and I go in and she's like, okay, I'm here. She kind of some broken English that she was talking, heavy accent, and she goes, now you got to think, it's 99. I would have been uh, 29 years old. Yeah. And she goes, I'm here for the Desert Storm Registry. She goes, what is Desert Storm? I'm like, the Gulf War. She goes, I don't know what that is. She goes, you
Oh
mean,
no.
she goes, you mean Vietnam? I'm
Oh,
20 years old. This and that. I'm like, Vietnam? How old? I mean, now I might fall for it. Someone might fall. And I was like, no, not Vietnam. I'm not that
come
old.
on. Yeah, that's tough.
20, I'm 29 years old. I'm not Vietnam age. I'm like, that's my father better. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? She goes, I don't know what war you're talking about. I'm like, how can you be my Desert Storm doctor if you don't know there was a Desert Storm? She goes, well, you got
Yeah.
assigned to me. She goes, I knew. And she goes, so there was a war in the desert. And I'm like, yes, a big. And she goes, it must have been just the United States and it didn't have Korea. I'm like, I don't recall seeing Korea there, but I said, no, there was German, there was French, there was Canadians were there. There were, I'm like, it was an allied forces that went in. And she goes, I never heard about it. And I was just like, I got
Wow.
so mad. I got so mad. I
Yeah.
got up and walked out.
I'm sure.
And I
Yep.
did
Yep.
not go back to the VA for another 10 years.
Wow. I mean, that's, I don't have any words. I could understand why you didn't go back there for 10 years. That's just a brutal experience to walk into. Between, I guess, when you actually, let's take a step back to, actually finishing service, and touching on kind of like what you did literally next, right? You finish service, and where do you go from there?
Finished service, and I was going to go to work. So they had job fairs going on that you could go while you're on base, while you're
Mm-hmm.
transitioning or trying to transition out. You could go to these little job fairs. And I talked to an electrical company that was based out of Dallas. And I remember they were going to hire me for $7 an hour, and I was excited about it. Oh, $7. That beats the $3.50 minimum wage. Like, cool. I'll get paid $7 an hour. That was going to be good money, and I'll go be an electrician in Dallas. And as I was leaving, because I thought that's what I was going to go do, um, a buddy of mine goes, "Hey, this company over here is hiring for $9.90." I'm like, what? What do they want? What do they do? And he goes, they make computer chips. I'm like, man, I'm not a scientist. I don't know how to make computer chips. And they're like, no, it's different. It's a manufacturing thing, and they'll pay you that much, and they'll train you. He goes, they just want to know if you got any technical expertise that they can train you. I'm like, well, I work communications. I worked in this. He goes, talk to them. So I went over there and talked to them. They're like, yeah, you're exactly who we want to hire, and we'll pay you $9.90 an hour. And the guy goes, what were you going to do? I said, I was going to work as an electrician in Dallas for $7 an hour. And the guy goes, well, we'll pay you $9.90. And oh, by the way, it's indoors in the air conditioning. And I went, you know, I've spent some time in hot places. I'm all over that air conditioning thing. So I ended up going to work for AMD. I worked for like almost 12 years for them,
Mm-hmm.
uh, working inside. And that's where I ended up getting into the safety team,
Mm-hmm.
working at AMD, Advanced Micro Devices. And I was
Mm-hmm.
on their emergency response team and started getting into the safety side and chemical spill cleanup and getting involved with all of that at that point. And that transferred. I ended up leaving A&D, went to work for DuPont. And at DuPont, again, still working in the factory and being part of the team, a position came up as a safety coordinator, working for a gentleman named Pat McLean. And he was my first safety role that I took on working with him. And he was an amazing individual, a great mentor, almost a father figure type, older guy that was going to walk you through the ropes on how to work in safety. And so I was his coordinator for about 8 years, working for him. And this is where it gets a little bit sad. Um, him and his family were murdered,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
I got the call when I came in to work that morning that his son-in-law had killed everybody in the house, and I was
Wow.
just in shock. And I remember that hurting more and was harder to adjust to than losing friends in war.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow losing my brothers in war kind of went, it's justifiable because we were there for war and it was a fighting chance. But when you go, it was basically a home invasion murder
Mm-hmm.
that stood no chance. It uh, it 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 floored me.
Mm-hmm.
So I continued to work at the plant. I worked for about 3 years in the role of safety manager at that point, and then they decided that even though I had done the work for 8 years and then took over the management role for 3 years, they came in and saw that I did not have an official degree in safety management. So they demoted me back down to coordinator and hired somebody else in as manager. And they said, we need you to train this person because they have the degree, but they don't have the experience. And I was just like, so I trained this person for about 3 years, and then I left that company and went to work for Samsung.
Mm-hmm.
Was working over at Samsung, had a lot of industrial spill cleanups and stuff like that. That was pretty dangerous stuff. When you're talking about a football field size gas cloud of hydrochloric acid, that your responsibility to make sure that you can send people into it to clean it up and stop it. So another gas attack, if you will. And I was like, I can't stand this. My son at that time had grown up, graduated from uh, high school, got a job working for an electrician, and he told his boss, "Hey, my dad works in safety. They were looking to hire a safety guy."
Mm-hmm.
So the company my son was working for called me and said, "Hey, how would you like to come over and work in construction versus general industry and run our own safety department? You can write it up, run it how you want, and you'll be the safety director." And I went, "I'll be right there."
That's
Uh,
awesome. So that's your segue into the built environment.
that was my segue into the safety environment, safety industry.
Yeah, awesome. So taking a step back to transition now, and then we'll continue to where I just paused it. So talk to us about the transition period, military to civilian life, kind of what that was like for you. You know, moving
Again,
into being a
you
civilian.
know, you you find yourself doing things that you see other people not paying attention to the details on things. I was very detail orientated
Mm-hmm.
from just from the military. A lot having to do with working in the nuke area that we worked in. Everything had to
Mm-hmm.
be exactly right, dead center, and when you did everything, and measurements had to be spot on. There was no plus or minus. So that's the way I wanted everything to run. And if there was things that weren't that way, I took it upon myself to go the extra mile and just do it, because once I had it down, I could make a program out of it, and I could follow that program, and I could do that. I knew how to do it. I did go back to working 12-hour shifts in
Mm-hmm.
the civilian world. So I was working weekend nights, 12-hour shifts. So literally work 12 hours, come home, get my son up for school. My wife would leave for work. I'd lay down and get a little bit of sleep, pop back up, and then get my son home from school. By the time my wife would come home, I'd jump in the car and I would leave. So, and that went on for 12 years.
Wow.
And it was just, it was a long time to
Mm-hmm.
go through that kind of a process. And but at the same time, you'd work a 3-day week and then a 4-day week, 3-day week and then a
Mm-hmm.
four. So you always had 3 days off and 4 days off. But your first day off, you always spent sleeping, and
Mm-hmm.
then the next day you'd have family time, or you try to mow the grass, wash the car, change the oil, get something done, and but if your days off are always in the middle of the week. So you're like,
Yeah.
hey, it's
Yeah.
Wednesday in the middle of the week, let's go do something. Everybody else is at work. It's like,
Right. Right.
So you learn to make a good team with the guys that you work with, because they were off the same time that you were off. So
Mm-hmm.
hey, me and a friend would both take our kids and take them down to Six Flags and SeaWorld and do stuff like that during the summer months in the middle of the week. And
Mm-hmm.
became another, almost like a military unit again there.
Right.
But
Sure.
just the people looking at from showing up, being at work early, staying late, getting it done, making sure everything was 100% spot on, everything was done correct. You become, I guess, a little OCD
Mm-hmm.
in a civilian kind of role. You look at it, why are you always doing it? Like, why are you so strict on this? Because it's the way it needs to be. If you don't want it to be
Mm-hmm.
that way, change the rules. It doesn't matter. If he says it needs to be this, this is what you say to be here at 8. We're going to be there at 8, ready to work at 8. If the whistle doesn't blow until 8 the next morning, you work till 8, and at 8 the next morning, then you can start downgrading. And if the guy coming on for the next shift that you're supposed to pass down to isn't there to 8:15, well then I haven't properly passed down to somebody, so I'm going to continue working till 8:15 when somebody gets in here.
Mm-hmm.
And what I already clocked out at 8. It's just 15 minutes. Okay. There was no overtime in the military, so you're just
Right.
didn't bother me. I was never a
So,
money motivated person.
mhm.
Uh, yeah, I chose the job that was 990, but what stood out better than that was the fact that he told me it was air conditioned.
Yeah.
Didn't tell me it was
Fair
next
enough.
to a 400-degree furnace. Well, that's
Right.
dips. He left that part out, but
So
uh,
in hindsight, in your transition, and you did kind of already mention this in terms of like taking advantage of, transition programs or advisors. But I want to give like another opportunity to plug in. Uh, you could repeat that advice, or if you have any other advice, kind of like to your former self, right? Like just now with hindsight knowledge, how would you advise other service members to best transition, and just based on your experience?
going off of what I know and the time period
Hmm.
that I got out, which was again 96,
Sure.
uh, take the classes. Uh, they're going to help you more than you realize.
Hmm.
Or at least it would have helped me more than I realized. Thinking I don't need a class to be a civilian. Yeah, you do.
Hmm.
You have to realize this, and this isn't going to be like that. And then, you think, well, I'm a soldier. The only thing I can do when I get out is I can either, I guess, I could be a cop or security guard or go do private bodyguarding. You think everything that's military style, like you've got so much more available to yourself that you can do. You're going to be a good leader. You're going to be you can be a good leader, and not everybody is in the military is a good leader, but you can be a good leader. You can write programs. Great for scheduling, conflict management. Um, but your conflict management that you do in the military, sometimes you're going to tell somebody what to do. You're going to knife hand them and yell at them about this. Well, you're not going to be able to yell anymore. You're not going to be able to knife
Right.
hand them anymore. And they may have had to follow you because you outranked them. When you get to the civilian job, you may find out that there's not really a ranking. There's the boss and there's everybody else, and
Hmm.
sometimes you're over this guy and sometimes he's over you, and so it's not always the same, and that can be really frustrating with that,
Hmm.
and having to deal with that. Those kind of things. Learning learning to keep your finances in check. When
Mm.
you're in the military, if you had a bad payment on something, man, your first sergeant knew about it, your platoon sergeant knew about it, everybody was there, and they jumped. That's not there. Um, feel free to sink, and
Mm.
don't go out and don't go extravagant when you get out thinking, oh, I'm going to go buy that house in Malibu and a Porsche and do all of this, and I'm going to live like you might not. That big bonus that you got sitting there might find out that it dwindles pretty quick, right?
Hmm. Yep.
Take
It's
advantage
good
of the
advice. I mean,
take advantage of the education that's
right.
available in the classes, whether it's formal education or it's just, hey, here's how to properly write a resume. Here's how to, how to how to be interviewed,
Hmm.
right? It's not going before your military board and your army promotion boards. It's not going to be like that, right? They're going to ask you some questions that you're going to go, well, this is dumb.
Hmm.
What do you mean? What am I going to do in 5 years? I'm going to do the same thing I'm doing right now. Well, no, they want to know that you've got growth planned in for it. You may not know what civilian growth looks like in that particular role. Um,
Yeah.
but a lot of that information is now available, and communication is a lot easier now. The internet is out there, training is out there. You got the internet on your phone, so it's a lot
Hmm.
different there. But learn learn what's available to you as a veteran before you get out.
Yeah.
What does being a veteran mean? Do you need the VA? Do you need the VFW? Do you need a social environment that you can connect back to a team that you once used to call brothers and sisters,
Hmm.
right? You're going to get out and get a job, and what if that job has you traveling? And a prime example, a guy I know that's down here, he's from Colorado, and he got out of the service. He was a Marine, and he got a job working with hospital installation of these alarms, and it's a specialized thing. So he took the classes, he's got the training for it, he's good to go. Well, he gets sent down here to Texas to work on these hospitals, and he literally is going to be down here for 11 months. He's got a one-bedroom
Wow.
apartment that he rents. So he comes down here, he's by himself. He works 12 hours a day. He goes back
Yeah.
to an apartment and sits in an apartment by himself for 12 hours because he doesn't know anybody else down here. He's
Yeah. Yeah.
a team of one doing what he's doing on the job site. And so he's like, he finds himself, he ended up connecting with me, but he said he found himself just drinking more and more for no reason. And then that caused him, and when he would call back to Colorado to talk to a girlfriend, he would end up getting in fights with her. They weren't seeing each other. There were all that frustrations. He's by himself. He doesn't have the connections that he had before, and he was just feeling kind of lost. He got involved with. I'm like, man, reach out to local brothers that are around here. Find out who's a veteran on your job site. Connect with them. See what's happening. Get plugged back into the veteran community. Form that brotherhood and work on your mental health with that. And
Yep.
that's really helped him. And he's like, hey, what are you doing? Sitting here at the house. We're having meatloaf and watching reruns of, whatever's on TV. Oh, yeah. Why don't you come on over, man? And I'll introduce you to some, hamburger helper and reruns. But we can sit here and laugh about it together. And, when you're done, you can go home for the night. And he's like, you know what? That sounds like life. I'll come on over. Come on over. It doesn't have to be 5-star special.
Yeah.
Sometimes the mundane really is what makes life. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's great advice. And I mean, regardless of, time period where, if you didn't have like internet and ability to access this information or not, the principal point is still there where, okay, go and actually access the information and be sure that you're aware of these like small nuances that, I mean, you really just don't think of these little things until they happen, hit you in the face, and then they're not fun when they hit you in the face. So I totally agree with you. It's really good to get ahead of what's to come, get ahead of understanding of how you can take advantage of programs, information, support, etc., community. So it's a great point. Going fast forward to kind of where we paused, which is when you got into built environment, we're heading safety for that electrical company. Take us from there onward.
So worked for the electrical company, working in with them, and loved it. Truly, truly loved it. Good company, great working with guys. Felt like I was back in the military again.
Mm.
We helmets and hard hats, steel toe boots, combat boots, tool belt for web belt. So it's kind of like, all right, I get this, and
Yeah.
you can point at something and say, hey, mission accomplished. We got this
Hmm.
done. We did this, and it felt really good. Um, and you could walk into it. And I was one of those guys that I wanted to know everybody on the job by name, wanted to know what they were doing, what they did the last weekend. This
Hmm.
guy went fishing. Did you catch anything? This guy went to go watch his kids play ball. Did the kid win? Did they make any goofball mistakes? What's going on? And just, doing that and making those kind of connections with folks. And
Hmm.
I really did love it. During that time frame, since I was the safety director for that company, um, we were members of AGC,
Hmm.
and being a member of AGC, attending the safety meetings there, meeting with other contractors and everything, and getting to know them. Uh, I got to know the guy that ran the safety for AGC at the time was a Navy SEAL or ex Navy SEAL, and so here I am, Army. He's Navy SEAL. We were about the same age, went through the same thing, so we would go back and forth on things and make good friends with him. Um, his wife ended up getting a job up in Dallas, a prestigious job, and so he's like, "Hey, I got to leave. I got to go to Dallas." So he gives me a call and he goes, "You should come over here and talk to these folks at AGC and see about taking this position." I was like, man, I'm happy where I'm at. I got my
Hmm.
program. I wrote it. I'm working it. I've got good connections. I'm happy. I could stay right here and retire. And he's like, just come over here and talk. Just see about it, man, because I really think you would like this and it would fit you. And I'm like, all right, okay. So uh, came over and talked to Phil. He's the CEO and president here, and was looking into things. And I was like, I really could branch things out and reach more
Hmm.
than just one company. I could reach a whole bunch of companies this way. And I could take what I've done here and branch it out even wider if I wanted to. And, you know, stepped my game up in one aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was really heartbreaking for me to go back to the owners of that electrical company. They felt like family friends, and I had always said that it felt like family. I was going to stay here forever, and I had to go. And hey, my forever came to an end. I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to go over here. And they're like, what? Is it money? I was like, no, it's not. It's not money. I'm literally not moving over there for money. You can't offer me money in replace. I'm not motivated by that.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, okay. I said, here's what the options are. Here's what's going to be able to happen. And that's exactly what happened. I said, well, I'm going to have to leave. And so luckily I got to kind of help them pick my successor that came in. I'm like, hey, there's some people I know. I can put the feel out for it and talk to it. This person's good, or this person's good, or this one's better than that one. And hey, why don't you take a look at this person? And sure enough, that's the one they went with. And they got their safety program running now and they've made a lot of changes in that company now. So it's no longer my program that's running there. She's got her program that she's running. She's doing real well with that. But I've got to institute the things that I do or have done in the past. I've got to institute here. One of the things I did, something simple. We have a safety forum that meets here, and I formalized an agenda. It's very military style and laid out. People tell me they love it. They love the fact that you can literally see that it's structured down to how much time each section is going to take us and how we're going to go through it. So it's not just a run-on meeting that goes on, and so we actually have it structured. And people's like, man, that's made a big difference. We appreciate that. I start every meeting off with a Pledge of Allegiance. We're here. The first thing we're going to do before we hold this meeting, we're going to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. They never used to do that before, and so I'm like, we're doing it here. And everybody loves it. At least they tell me they do. Everyone stands up, pledges, and we do it, and it's a heartfelt time. Another thing I brought back is the opportunity of, like, if there's anybody in the room that'd like to offer up a prayer, an opening prayer for us. We're all safety folks. We want everyone to go home safe. If you're of mind and like, please offer up a prayer. Somebody in the room will offer up a prayer. If nobody wants to offer one, you can sit there quietly for a few minutes. It's not something that's forced upon anybody. But it's like, if you want that, this is here. It is available to you. And we also, one of the other things we do, we go around the room. We all know each other, but we go around the room, we make an introduction to say who we are, who we work for. And I make everyone say, give me one thing positive that's happened in your life over the course since the last meeting that we had. In the past month, whether it's personal or professional, give me one thing positive. Because if you focus on one thing positive, it's going to make our meeting go better. So everyone goes around the room and talks about something. Hey, I went fishing, or my kid graduated from kindergarten, or whatever the case might be. And they talk about something that's positive in their life that's happened in the past month. Or sometimes it's, hey, I've got this plan that's going to be coming up here real soon. I'm going to go see my brother for the first time in 13 years, and we're going to go deer hunting together. And that's great. You're going to reconnect with your brother and do that, for 13 years. Do you think that you'll connect more than 13 years again? Yeah, we're going to reconnect. We're going to do this and this. And so people get to share those things that make them feel better. And that part I really love with it.
It's a great meeting structure. And I want, I'd like for you to kind of describe, take a step back. I understand why you're saying, joining AGC allowed you, be a part of a larger organization, allow you to, kind of, inform ideas, concept, structure on what you're doing to a larger audience. But I'd like for you to describe that a little bit more. Describe what AGC is, in case any listener doesn't know what that is.
Oh, okay. So AGC is the Associated General Contractors of America. We are the Austin chapter, one of the oldest and largest associations for construction in the U.S. And we're literally that. We're an association for construction, whether that's a general contractor or if it's a subcontractor, or even if it's a vendor. We are that association that pulls that together, and we work for you. We work on political and legislative needs. So if there's something going on down at City Hall that could affect your permitting or what's going to happen, we work for the side of the construction industry to kind of work for that. My boss handles most of that portions of it, so he makes the connections with the mayor and the governor and the senators and everything that's right here in Austin. And we work with those things and work with those programs and workforce solutions and all those kind of things we end up working with. I run the safety department, so I'm doing the safety training. Everybody that needs to work in construction has to have safety training, so I can offer up to our members at a very discounted price for them because they're members the OSHA 10s, the OSHA 30s, um, flagger training, first aid, CPR, AED, basket lift, fork trucks, fall protection, trench protection. I can get your folks certified for that so you've got the proper training for your employees that are in the field.
Mm-hmm.
I also run our safety forum, which, hey, every month I'm bringing in a speaker to talk on a topic that's pertinent to us and this industry. Um, I also have a relationship that I build with our local OSHA office. So the OSHA inspectors come to our meetings, sit in with our meetings, get to know us. They get to know our members face to face. So it's not so much of a stranger coming out when something happens. Or if you have a call, I have a member that gave me a call today, said, hey, I've got a question about how to approach an employee that this happened on the job. It didn't cause him to get hurt. He didn't have to go to a doctor, but how do I, if he wants just to take the day off, how do I adjust that? How do I work with that? I want to ask OSHA these questions, but I don't want to find out that it's wrong or something. I don't want to blow the whistle on myself. And I'm like, well, I can ask that question for you and see what the answer would be and get that answer back to you. And if they say, no, this is something we need to talk face to face about, we can be that neutral spot in the middle and work with them. So we kind of help work back and forth to kind of get the right answers in place when people are seeking those answers that they might kind of be timid to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the other great things that we do in a part of the association is our networking. We bring everybody together, the GCs, the subs, the suppliers, GC to GC. One of the things we're doing is our Meet the GC. We're going to take 3 of our prominent members. They're going to come in for breakfast and they're going to say, hey, I'm with such and such company. We have these jobs that are coming open in the next year. Here's what the bidding process will be for. Here's what we're looking to do. Here's how long the project's going to last. Here's what the manpower will be. And they just tell you about their projects and what they're going to look for. And those folks that have the resources to fill those slots go, oh, well, hey, I'm so-and-so. Then you talk with your estimator. Let's do this. And they can start talking and working on it versus it's just a cold bid that gets entered into it. That's just the meet the GC breakfast. We do another real fun thing that we just did was our Top Golf event. We rented one of the floors out in Top Golf. We have members that will sponsor each one of the bays. We had like 300 people show up to this event. It was huge. It was packed. Every 15 minutes, they blow the horn and you change to a different bay. So you get to meet with so you're getting
awesome.
Forced FaceTime with everybody, not just because if you just had like, say, an open bar event, you might just mingle in one section, not meet the person. So it's
totally
kind of speed dating for construction. I don't know. But it's a great event.
It's a great idea.
We have a young leaders group, our CLC. They do amazing work. If you got guys that are 35 and younger, get them involved into the CLC. They raise money for scholarships that feed back into the construction industry. They take fishing trips, or maybe it's a happy hour, or maybe they'll host, hey, come check out our job site, and you can be from another company. You can part of the CLC. You'll get to go watch their job site. Hey, here's something that we're doing. This is a new style, a new build, something that we're doing new on our job, and here's how we handle it. One of our member companies is doing a mass timber build. That's new for us down here in Central Texas. That might be something happening up in Oregon and these other. We don't see it down here. One of the first questions, like, well, it's all wood. Won't it catch on fire? Won't it burn? They're like, no, it's mass timber. This wood doesn't burn. It's so dense. But you have to have 100% of your plans done a year ahead of time. So they cut each piece, part A to part B to part C, and it all links together like Lincoln logs, basically. It's gorgeous when it's done. You're like,
Yeah,
wow, it's a
it is.
finished product when you put the floor in and the ceiling in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got a different sound just walking down the hallway when you're walking in it. And you're just like, oh, this is something new. I'm glad I got invited to come see this and do this.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
they're
awesome set of initiatives. And I want to segue that into what you're doing with CVRS.
so being in AGC and being attached to a national organization. Our national AGC has a task force. What they did is they identified that construction has the highest rate of suicides of any industry that's out there. We might see people getting injured, and killed on a job site due to job site accidents, about 1,000 a year. The suicide rate is between 6 to 7,000.
Crazy.
It way outnumbers it.
Mm-hmm.
It's atrocious. So they've started this task force to work on the mental health and suicide prevention for construction. I'm an ambassador of that program. Our chairman is Mandy Kime and Brandon Anderson. Great individuals helping lead that team, leading the charge in construction. They've done such a good job of putting that program together that both of them were recognized by Parliament in England and were flown over to be recognized by Parliament for the work that they've done. I was just like, wow, that's amazing, man. I make jokes. Do I have to call you lady and sir? And they're like, no. But great thing that they're doing. So in those meetings and sitting in there, I kind of raised my hand and I asked the question. I say, is anybody tracking our veterans that are working
Mm-hmm.
in construction? And they went, no. Why would we track veterans for that? And I had to tell them, I'm like, well, are you aware that at that point veterans were committing suicide at a rate of 22 a day? And they're like, no, we didn't realize that. I said, well, what if you have a veteran that has mental stressors from military service, and then he gets into a job in construction that
Mm-hmm.
has its level, and you basically got a pinpoint there, right? A cross reference. So you got individuals that could be at literally a dual risk: construction, combat service, got them together. You're adding more and more stressors to that issue. Do those veterans know do those veteran construction workers that got out of service and are working straight from service going into working in construction, are you aware of the services that are available to you as a veteran? Are you aware of the services that are available to you as a construction employee? Do you
Mm-hmm.
know that, yes, you have insurance, but your insurance is part of an EAP, employee assistance program? You have health care, you have mental health care available through your insurance. You have mental health care available to you through the VA. You don't have to be a disabled vet to have that. It's available to you. You can go down to the VA and say that, hey, you'd like to go in and check into their mental health clinic and just talk with them and see what's available. Do you know about 988? That's the national call number. If you call 988, there's a number that you can push one afterwards, and it'll take you to the section that's designed for veterans. It's not like calling 911. You call 988 and then you press one for a veteran. It's not like they're going to send an ambulance to your house. They're not going to send the local sheriff or a game warden or somebody like that is going to come, looking to take your guns and looking to lock you up or something. That's not how that works. They're going to walk you through to see what problems you're having and how best to get you the help that you need. Maybe your mental stress is coming from the fact that you are financially strapped.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just sinking and you need some financial help somehow, some way to get back on your feet so that way you can quit stressing out and make things work. Maybe it's substance abuse. Maybe you are that guy that's locked up in your room all day long, nothing else to do. So you start drinking more, you start drinking more to the point where you know that it's affecting you, or it's
Mm-hmm.
making those bad thoughts come into your head and you are thinking about suicide. And you can call and talk, well, how do I not do this when it's the only thing I've got to do and it's the only thing I know what to do? My whole life is, hey, if you got a problem, come over and drink it out with your buddies. I've been there. I've
Yeah.
done that. I've done it with other guys. So asking those kind of questions about what is construction doing, they didn't have an answer for it. So they said, you ask, you're the veteran, you do something. I went, okay, I wrote a program before. I can see what I can come up with. First thing I realized is that I'm not a clinician. I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist, but I know them. I've used those kind of services to help get through things. So my boss was murdered. I needed to talk to somebody. I had a lot of bad feelings, a lot of bad thoughts. Everything was coming up. The stresses of having to step into that role the next day, and then at the same time wonder there's nothing you can do for his family. His family was gone too. There was a lot of stuff that got bagged onto that. And so I had to reach out to somebody. I had to work with somebody to help work through all of that. I knew that, hey, drinking's not going to be the answer. I got to be stone sober when I'm at work. I got to be like this. So I can't even have that drink that I want to calm my nerves. I have all these bad thoughts. I have horrible nightmares, stuff that you saw during the military and the war. That stuff starts coming. All this stuff started piling back in. And I needed to be able to talk to somebody. So I reached out to somebody. I found somebody that could help me walk through it and found something that worked for me, because not everything works the same for everybody. Maybe taking the medication, the pills that the VA wants to give you, maybe it doesn't work. Sometimes it does. And I've got brothers that have taken those pills and it's worked, and it's helped them calm down and it's helped them work through those situations. For me, that wasn't the answer for me. It's not what I was looking for. It's not what I wanted to do. So with my program with CVRS, Construction Veterans Reducing Suicide, I said, look, I want to reach out to other veterans that still give a flying, you know what, right? They care about their brother or their sister that's next to them. If you got a military buddy that's on the job that you're willing to call your brother, you're willing to work for, maybe you're willing to help him so he doesn't get to that dark spot where substance abuse becomes his main key focus, or suicidal ideology is his main focus. We can work on these different programs. Maybe you need to work with how to calm yourself down so you're not throwing a hammer across a job site, knocking the foreman out, right? Maybe you got to work with that. Maybe equine therapy will work for you. That's working with horses. To work with a horse, you have to be calm. If you're in there all tense and tight and upset and you're pissed off and mad, that horse is going to be pissed off and mad, and he ain't going to let you near him. He's going to flinch and he's going to shake, and you're going to have to learn how to calm yourself down so then you can work on the horse. They do the same thing with bees. If you work with honeybees, you have to be calm. If you put that energy off, they feel it, they swarm, and they work. You know, they say a shark can smell or can sense your heart beating from what, like a mile away or something like that. And they can come toward wherever that signal's coming from, right? Because the tension that you're putting off when you're in distress, they can sense that. A lot of animals can do this kind of thing. So you learn to keep yourself calm. You learn how to calm yourself down. You learn how to rely on yourself and rely on others, and the training that you get with it. You could start to calm those things down. You can learn to replace those things instead of going out for drinking and all of that. Maybe you learn to pick up something else and use something else. There's a program here called Motorcycle Missions. They get veterans together. They literally will build a motorcycle from the ground up, bending the pipes, doing the welds, doing the painting. When they're done, there's this custom bike that they're done that they built, and they auction it off, and the money goes back into the program.
Awesome program.
Works with that. Black Iron Forge. They bring guys together, and you get in there and you beat black iron on a fire and an anvil. And you work it out, and when you're done, you get this massive, cool-looking knife that you've created. You've tempered it. You've worked it. And hey, while you're there doing that, there's somebody that's been trained, and they're there talking to you about the mental health things you need to work with. And you find this hobby, and you work with it, and you come up with that. Another great. Some of the pipe fitters I know, they have MMA boxing with each other. It's structured. They get in there, and they told me this one. They said what they do is they have their mental health talk afterwards, because you're too tired. You're tired to argue afterwards. You're just, okay. You've got all your frustrations. You've worked it out in a controlled environment, and so you learn how to do these things. And so you learn these different modalities. And so that's what I wanted to do with CVRS. So Construction Veteran Reducing Suicide, CVRS, acronym for that is COVERS. And I said, look, the same thing for COVERS, CVRS. We're going to use those letters as our 4 tenets of what we're going to work with. First is challenge. Anybody that comes in the covers, you're going to learn to challenge your brother in the field. I'm going to ask Adam, I notice you're not yourself, man. You're not being you. Are you okay? Is things all right? Talk to me. Are you thinking about hurting yourself? Are you thinking about killing yourself? Suicide come up? Have you thought about that? If it was, do you know what you would do? We're going to ask those kind of questions. They're going to be hard questions to ask somebody. If you think they're really thinking about it, it's going to be hard to ask somebody this question. Veterans are going to do that. We're going to hold each other to that line, right? Other thing you're going to do, you're going to validate them. Dude, you've got every 100% right to feel that way. You feel like pulling your hair out because of this and doing that. You feel like you got to scream, you got to punch a wall, you got to cry, you got to, whatever the case might be. Dude, it's validated. It's real. It's not fake. It's not some BS that you think's going on, or, oh, it's just, I'm being crazy. No, you're not. It's real. That's emotions. It's raw. It's real. You're not faking it. It is real. It is a problem. The other part, so that's challenge, C, validate, V, R, reassure. You're not in this alone. You never went on mission alone. You weren't Rambo. You weren't some super soldier out there winning the war by yourself. You didn't plan the attack, the logistics, the fight, and come back all by yourself. What makes you think you're going to do it in yourself? You still have a mission. It's just your mission is no longer military. Your mission is now life civilian. You still have a mission. You still need a team to get it done. We're going to help you find that team, or we're going to be that team. And we're going to work with that. So we're going to reassure you. I'm going to help you pick up the phone. I'm not going to ask you to call 988 if I think you're having a problem. I'm going to ask you for your phone, and I'm going to call 988 on your phone and put it on speaker. And we're going to sit there together and walk through it, not worrying about, are you alone or is somebody going to hear you? No, we're going to walk it through together. I'm going to do that. And the last one, the S, is signs. Knowing what the signs and symptoms of somebody in stress is, knowing that it's real, knowing what depression looks like, knowing what anxiety looks like, knowing what withdrawal. The guy that just doesn't want to talk, doesn't engage, and just goes home and doesn't show up. The guy that was all happy and was there all the time. The guy that was there at 7:45 instead of 8 o'clock is now not showing up until 8:15. He's not eating lunch. He's not bathing. He's not doing anything. And he's just going through the motions. That's somebody who needs to be talked to. He needs somebody to talk to, whether he's asking them for it or not. And those are the things that we're looking at here. And so I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm just coordinating it and putting it together. Our guys that received this training, we've decided on the name Pathfinders, because our whole idea is we're going to help our brothers find a path that fits them. Maybe it's equine therapy. Maybe it's black iron forging. Maybe it's boxing. Maybe it's going to the VA and talking to somebody at the VA. Maybe it is medication. Maybe you do got to get some of your medication straight to get things back in whack, to get you to where you need to be. Maybe you don't want to use the VA and you've had a bad experience with the VA and you walked away for 10 years and you don't have faith in it. You know what? You have an EAP through your employer. We still have things available to you. You don't want to talk to your boss. You don't want your boss to know that you're feeling like this and going through this. There are private individuals. They're part of our team as well. I got 3 people right now, 3 counselors right here in Austin for anybody that's in the Austin area. If you didn't want to use any of those other sources, I could connect you with those 3 people tonight. Not wait on the phone and the VA will call you back in 30 days. Not let me see if your insurance is paid up. They'll call you. They'll talk to you right now tonight. That's what I call my QRF, my quick reaction force. They're right there immediately available to you. And they're part of our program as well. And all of this is just getting folks together and networking it and putting that trust back together, that bond back together. So you're not sitting in your partner by yourself anymore. You know you've got a connection on the field. We came up with these stickers. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Yeah, see it well.
That's our Finder patch. So you get this when you're taking your training. The idea is that the guys will be able to put it on their hard hats, wear it on their hard hats, toolboxes. You compute the second layer of it. I'm looking at getting an actual patch made with some Velcro. You could put it on your safety vest if you like. Another thing that we have is little training cards that we have. This is a wallet card, not a training card. And it basically just says, construction veteran reducing suicide, and it's got the challenge, validate, reassure, and signs on the other side of it. So it's a tactical support network. The most
Hmm.
important part is on the back side, and it basically gives us and tells us that, hey, here's your EAP number. Write it down. So the idea is that you've got a pathfinder in your company that knows what your company EAP program is.
Hmm.
You're going to write down the local VA number, not the national number. What's the one to the direct line to the office nearest you? How about a VSO, a veteran service organization, right? That's our Heroes Night Out. That's our equine therapy. That's one of those sources. We can write that into there. And the last one, a local mental health provider. Who's one of the local mental health providers you would like to talk to? And then we also have the veteran crisis line and the QR code to take you there, text and talk to them immediately. This is something our pathfinders are going to be able to have in their wallet and be able to literally hand it to you if you need it on the job site. It's immediate, it's there, it's reactionary, it's hopefully it's preventative more than reactionary, but
Hmm.
you've got it before you need it. And so uh, I'm getting huge support for this program. The VA wants to support it. AGC is supporting it. We're going to have this open up at all of our AGC chapters across the U.S. I'm going to make it available to whoever wants to do it. Uh, you just need to have a champion that's willing to help kind of coordinate and champion it, put it together, and you roll it out there. The programs are already there. We're going to search those programs in your area, make it available to you, and so you've got that available. It's going to be 100% free for our veterans. You should not have to pay to save your own life. There's no money involved in this. It's literally bringing it together using those resources that are out there for us. But we do have folks that want to support us and help us get those things, help us pay for this, pay for patches. I've already got companies that have signed up and said, hey, we'd like to sign up and send your guys that are Pathfinders on a veterans retreat. We'll take them up into the cabins of Colorado or California and Georgia, and we'll give them a retreat for a week where you can just your cell phones aren't going to work. You're not going to get those work emails. You're not going to get any, and you're going to be able to just kind of relax and sit back, sit around a campfire, talk with other vets, talk with other folks that have been through it. Have somebody that's there as a mental health professional.
Hmm.
Definitely looking at things that are affecting you emotionally, mentally, and spiritually when you look at mental health. So all three of those things have to come into play, and those three
Hmm.
things definitely affect you physically. So if we can
Totally.
help take a bite out of that. Like I said, there's a huge
Hmm.
number of folks that are committing suicide every day, all year long. And if we can just take that small bite of that elephant in the room, that's why I'm focusing on one thing at a time. That's why I'm focusing on my vets.
Yeah, it's absolutely shocking numbers in terms of suicide rates, and then you combine that exactly to your point with veterans in industry, and it's uh, something that needs to be addressed, and that's exactly what you're doing with covers, and it's really awesome to hear you kind of flesh out both how it initiated, which is a great story, and then now what you're doing with it and how it's growing accordingly as it should. So it's really amazing to hear kind of what you're covering, who's getting behind it, and excited to see it expand, covers expand, and kind of just grow in terms of awareness and support system for veterans in the built environment. Really cool. Awesome to hear it. I want to close out the professional segment with translatable skills. I know you've mentioned a bunch of these throughout our story, but here's the opportunity to really just plug it in. So military to built environment, translatable skills. What are some that come top of mind?
And for me, I think first translatable skills directly as it translates to construction.
Hmm.
Um, you get a veteran that's coming out, and why somebody, what that veteran's going to be able to provide, they're going to show up. You give them something, they're going to show up. They're the guys that are going to be there. They're the guys you're going to be able to count on. They might tell it to you raw. they may not sugarcoat it, but they're going to be there for it, right? They're not going to know exactly what to do. They're going to do it. If they say they're going to do it, they're going to do it. They're going to show up for it, right? They're hard chargers like that. They're hard workers. They're used to doing more with less on a less time frame, which every construction job I know of starts a week behind schedule. We're used to that.
Hmm.
On time was yesterday. you know,
Right.
when is it due? It's due yesterday. I need it now. Everything's ASAP. So we're used to going through that. We're used to doing that. We're used to the physical hard labor of it. We're used to trudging and going through it and having to work in it, right? We're used to just, I would almost say the mental stress of it. Not that you're used to that, but you do kind of become used to it. You go, hey, just like me and my wife had to learn to rely on each other and not get into those fights, and we learned to calm things down and realize not to fight. We learned those kind of things in the military as well. So your veterans are going to show up. They're going to be their guys that do that, and our ladies. We have veteran ladies that are out there working hard in the field too, not just in the office, but actually in the field. I know some kick-ass lady electricians that were prior service, and they do really well. I guess skills. They're going to show up. They're going to do what they're told. If you give them the directions, they're going to do that. They're going to make sure that they stand up for what's right and the protection of that, almost fiercely sometimes. You can kind of see trades kind of pick on each other. We do that same thing in the military, the Army and the Navy and the Marines. We all pick on each other, but we don't know nobody else pick on us, right? The same thing with your electricians, your drywallers, your masons, and plumbers. We'll pick on each other, but we're not going to nobody else pick on us outside of that. We're going to work on that. I just think that those hard skills that individual, I don't know if those are hard skills.
So, soft skills, I call it.
Soft skill portion of that, but they're going to know that. They're going to do that. The hard skills on that, For myself, I learned how to fill sandbags. I learned how to dig those foxholes. I learned how to put a trench in. I learned how to keep the paperwork straight. I learned how to keep everything down to the fine details of doing something. Military manual, I know it inside and out. Oh, now you want me to learn an OSHA manual? I've got it. It literally translates easy for me. I can pull this up. We're talking the same language. So they're going to be able to wear the uniform of the day and get through that and work on that. So those are the things I think do the best translation for bringing in veterans. And that's still taking a high approach look at it. You could get down a whole lot further into that and understanding their abilities for leadership and being able to lead a crew into doing something. You need a foreman on the job that's going to be able to take the job from start to finish, lead his crew with it, guide them and train them up in it. Yeah, grab a guy that's been a drill sergeant. He's going to know how to train. Absolutely. Grab the guy that's worked in a nuke facility, a nuke launch code. He's going to know how to train somebody to get it done because he's had to pass down to other shifts and how it's worked with. We learn to work with different cultures and different folks. You get a hodgepodge of people mixing in construction sites. Your veterans are going to know that. They're going to work with that.
Yeah. Well said. Totally agree. I could be wrong, but I think all of what you described, at least this is how I describe it, is like soft skills. Hard skills would be like if you were, I don't know, privy to a trade specific, like if you know how to do, plumbing pipe work, that would be hard skills. I think.
Right.
So all the soft skills, totally agree.
I imagine your guys that are, I'm not a Navy submariner, but I'm pretty sure everybody on a Navy sub knows something about pipe fitting.
Totally. Well, you got CBs, right? CBs are almost like, CBs, it's just literally a translation.
CBs, construction. If you don't know what a CB is, right? Yeah. CB is construction battalions. Those are your guys that are building everything.
Yeah.
You need to land in the jungles of Honduras. They're going to drop in your CBs. They're going to blow everything up and put in a landing pad so the C-130 can land and drop off all the troops. That's literally who's showing up first. You're going to, take over a dock in Saudi Arabia for this. Your CBs are going to build everything you need on it right there and clear it all out. Those guys can work from earth moving equipment and bulldozers to explosives to carpenters, electricians. They got all of that.
Totally.
CBs are great. They get all the fun.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. But nonetheless, I mean, anyone with service comes with soft skills that, generally speaking, are less likely to be taught in those environments, right? Meaning you'd prefer to hire someone with the soft skills because the hard skills is just a matter of, the time that you'd quickly come to understand. Similar to your story when you started out, right, in the manufacturing, just being taught the day-to-day trade, but you came with soft skills in terms of understanding, how to show up on time, work hard, have leadership skills. So Totally agree with you. And before we get to our final two questions, anything I didn't ask or you'd like to add?
I'm really proud of this Hovers program that we've got.
Mm,
It's a passion project for me. Connecting with other veterans, getting to mix in with that. It's finding that brotherhood again. It really is fun,
yeah.
and that aspect of it, and it's soul satisfying because we're reaching out on something that really does matter.
Mm,
If you've lost a brother uh, to suicide,
mm,
it's painful. And so having to work through that, being through that, I see it. So it truly is. And the one thing that, there's been a lot of military programs that have come up civilian world, and you've probably seen them, and some of them are famous, and some get bad reps, some get good. I want this to be one of those ones that gets a good rep, and part of that is, the big push I want to say is that it's got to stay free.
mhm.
Uh, I
Yeah.
don't think, and I'm serious that I don't want anybody to have to pay to join a club to learn something that would save their life. It's got to be, and there's programs out there that are already available to us. The VA has made these things available to us for free. AGC has got some training that they've given to us for free that we go
Mhm.
out there. I'm getting more and more people coming and go, hey, we'll provide this training for you guys. We'll do this. And I'm like, it's there. It's available. You're, let's let's do something. Let's make some tangible effort to move forward to save lives
Mhm.
because it's happening.
Yeah.
And it's happening everywhere to
Mhm.
everybody. So we can still have a mission and we can still get this done.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing for me. And I hope other people see it and receive it in the same way and want to take this type of idea and run with it and go, hey, this is a good idea. Let's be a part of it and support it. What does
Yeah.
support look like? For us, we're meeting once a quarter. What I'd ask for a company, I'm not going to ask you for any money. I'm going to ask you to let that guy get off the job for an
Mm,
hour, pay him so he's not missing any money to come sit in this meeting, to come take this
mhm.
training. The training is going
Mhm.
to be free. The retreats are going to be free. All this, the airfare to get there is going to be free. The whatever it is we're doing, it's not going to cost them anything. But I need you to be able to send your guy or girl to
Mhm.
receive this training. And that's
Yeah.
the support that I want to be able to talk to. That's what I want to go forth with. The big parts.
That's really awesome. Yeah, and I'm gonna add links, for your program in the show notes so people could easily find it. Really, really awesome program. I love kind of where your head's at in terms of being able to provide this as a service. You just need, companies to commit the time of their employees and people to show up, which I'm sure both parties will do because it's really important and it's really an awesome program. I'm going to take that direction, segue into our first of our last two questions, which is wellness. What does your wellness practice look like?
Oh, my wellness practice. So, for the longest time, more than 10 years now, it has been riding motorcycles.
Mm.
What we call wind therapy or two-wheel therapy, getting out and riding a motorcycle, has been a mental release for me, and I've truly loved it. I still have my bike, um, but something new got introduced to me in June, and I just did it this past weekend. I got to go fly fishing,
Mm.
and you think that there is something therapeutic about that line and making it do exactly what you want it to do,
Mhm.
making everything match, getting that thing to lay perfectly straight, and it doesn't even have to be you can be fishing in 6 inches of water and catch a little tiny guy, and it's just the little fight and oh, I did it. I made this work. I made it happen. I'm not a golf player, but I would imagine that's about as close to golf as I can get. Is that when you make the perfect swing and stroke, same thing when you're learning to cast that line and getting it to hit exactly where you want it to. And there's kind of an art to it. There's a good feeling to it. It's relaxing. You're listening. You're out there by yourself. You're nice and quiet, or hopefully you're by yourself. You're not too close to anybody else. And the water is running. The streams are brooks and going, and it is so relaxing and so fun. I got to go up to Branson, Missouri, and I went fly fishing up there. I caught a 12-inch, a 12-inch, and a 14-inch trout while I was up there. Those were all too small; they had to be released. But had the best time. Was just I came back so calm, so almost giddy, happy
Mhm.
from finding this new hobby like this, and I absolutely love it. So for wellness, that's what I do. For an activity outside of activity wise, reconnecting with the people that I found trust with,
Mhm.
the brothers I have in the covers program, and the folks that are on the AGC mental health task force.
Mm.
I'll just call and talk to them about things like, hey, man, I've got like this feeling, this going on, or I can see somebody else. Maybe they're making those Facebook posts and they're just flaming on somebody about it, and I'll see it. I'll reach out. Hey, brother, I saw your post. Let's talk. Oh, I'm okay. Well, let's talk anyway, because you know that's not good for you. It's not going to help you. That kind of stuff. You're throwing it out there. Let's talk about this. How's what can I do? How can I make you successful? Let's talk about it. So that
Mm.
interaction thing is really
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing for wellness.
Awesome answer. I love that. Never tried fly fishing, but the way you described it, makes me want to try it. It sounds fun. It sounds really cool. Just even just being outside, as you described, outside, get the water, running. The activity is just a bonus.
You made me think about one more thing.
Yeah,
One of
yeah,
the
please.
practices we learned is it's called the three things that you can do that are absolutely free that will
Mm,
100% help to change your mood.
mm,
First, laughing, or first, music. Listen to some music that makes you happy, whatever genre that is, whether
mhm,
it's rock, blues, rap, jazz. Listen to something that's going to make you happy, right? If it makes you feel happy, if you can smile when you listen to that song,
mm.
that's what you need to look to. That's what you need to listen to. The first is the music. Two, laughing. Even if it's a fake laugh, even if you have to and force it out and do
That's
that.
great.
If you force it, laughing will release the hormones in your body, the endorphins in your
Hmm.
body. It will help your mood. It will help you get along a lot better. So, music, laughing, and the last part is getting outside and doing something physical.
Hmm.
Even if you're on a construction job, even if you're in an office job, stop what you're doing, walk outside away from your job environment and walk away. Get some sunshine on you, even if it's hot. If it's outside, bring a jacket. If it's cold, if it's raining, bring an umbrella, but get outside away
Hmm.
from a closed environment. Take that walk and walk away. Stop thinking. Don't take that time to dwell on what you're pissed off about or what's antagonizing
Right.
you on the job site. Think about your surroundings and think about something. Hopefully, you're playing some music, or maybe you're going to walk down the street laughing to yourself, right? And you will make yourself feel your mood will get better. Those three free things will absolutely help with your mood. It's not a final answer, but it's going to help with your mood. It's
Hmm.
going to help you feel better. Music, laughing,
It's
get
great.
outside. Even if you
Love
have to
that.
walk out to the parking lot, drop the tailgate in your truck, and just sit there and soak up a little vitamin D
Hmm.
for a minute, getting away from your environment for just that amount of time until you can, okay, I feel
Yeah,
better. And then
that's
you can
awesome.
bring in things like box breathing and combat breathing and all like that, where you're controlling your breathing to get your temperament down. But start with those three free things.
Hmm. Yep, it's great. It's a great rule of thumb to go by. Couldn't be easier. That great answer. I appreciate you remembering and sharing that. Moving into the last question before we close out is any book or books you'd like to recommend to the audience?
Yes. One of my favorite books out there, written by Mike Day, is Perfectly Wounded.
Mm,
I don't know if you've heard of this book or maybe you've read it or not. An amazing book. If you don't know who Mike Day was, he was a SEAL team leader. He was shot 27
mm,
times in his body, and literally was perfectly wounded, missed all the vital organs that would have caused his death. He had to overcome that being shot 27 times And then he worked on resiliency. He worked on bringing himself back around, and he helped work with others. An amazing book, to me, life changing. And if I had to say a second one, I'm a big fan of military style books. Uh, uh, Working with the books that you see from Jocko Willink. I like Jocko's writings and things that he puts out there. So he's got his several books that he has out there. I think the one I'm reading right now is Tactics and Strategies. So for leadership, and, I really like that.
Yeah, awesome recommendations. Appreciate you sharing those, and absolutely incredible story with Day. Yeah, I know of his story. I didn't know of the book. I'm definitely going to put that on my list. Excited to read that.
You got to read that one. Just you walk away, you just go, wow, what a difference this guy made in people's lives, and so
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
definitely worth a read or even to listen to it. So it's on an audio book that he has out there as well. I like driving and listening to audio books, so I put those on when I drive. And then my ritual on Saturday mornings is I give me a cup of coffee, I sit at the table, and I read for at least an hour while I drink my coffee first thing every Saturday morning.
It's great.
Sometimes so
great ritual. Yeah, great recommendations. Shiloh, really appreciate you spending the time to share your story. Really excited about what you're doing with covers. Really excited to push that forward as well and see that grow through your channels. Thank you so much for joining the show and being part of our mission here.
Thank you. Appreciate the chance and offer and the platform. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. To our listeners, thank you as well. Shiloh, hang on with us, and we'll see you all real soon. Thank you to our channel sponsors, Jet.Build. If you're looking for ways to better manage your real estate development and construction projects, look no further. Jet is the command center software for end-to-end real estate development and construction management. That's www.jet.build.